All right, so we can begin with, before we get into the judgment aspect of what's going on with the California fires and what people are saying online, I wanted to check out a little bit of this video, just about 3 minutes of that, and then move on to hear what some of the remarks were from Mel Gibson.
This is Mother Nature, showing us once again that she's in charge, and whether it's climate or something else, I can tell you after 47 years of fighting fire and many Santa Ana wind fires, we've seen loss of life and destruction. This event last week was absolutely unique.
Please God, save us, save our house, please. Bye. Oh no. No.
Neighborhoods wiped off the map. Homes reduced to piles of ash. Every day it gets more grim. And the death toll keeps rising. 24 are now confirmed dead, and many more still missing. Forecasters estimate the damage to be more than $250 billion. This would be costlier than Katrina. And the Palisades fires are still only just 13% contained. Wind gusts are predicted to kick up, and firefighters are bracing for explosive fire growth. This isn't over yet.
Skyfox. Yeah. We call these fire tornadoes or fire nados. As we talk about a fire creates its own weather pattern, and what you're looking at right there is the swirling winds.
Authorities in Los Angeles are warning more destructive winds could lead to explosive fire growth, prompting further red flag warnings across the city. Severe winds of up to 115 kilometres an hour are whipping through Southern California, putting residents again on alert for high fire danger.
That have devastated entire sections of Los Angeles, with those Santa Ana winds ramping back up overnight and due to peak today. 13 million people under red flag warnings. The National Weather Service calling the conditions about as bad as it gets.
So, you guys have seen all of these videos. This is not a new message. This is a tragic situation. There's a lot of questions in the air as well. Some of it is, there's the official narrative. The official narrative is that this is Mother Nature. The official narrative also states that this came out of nowhere. Nobody was ready for this. They didn't see it coming. That's some of the things that are being said. There's some other ideas about smart meters. Also, they're saying these smart meters are catching fires. This could have played a role in that. Some also are alleging that there were some arsonists who were going around starting fires, although there were 7 different fires, not remotely close to each other, miles and miles away. And there is another perception that they must have been given a stand-down order to the firefighters, because why weren't they there to put out the fires 45-something minutes later after they were called? That's when they responded. And on average, a firefighter is about 15 minutes. So that is these are some of the things that people are talking about. And there was a recent announcement made by Joe Biden. He announces to give $750 one-time payment to California wildfire victims.
People impacted by these fires are going to receive one-time payment of $770, one-time payment, so they can quickly purchase things like water, baby formula, and prescriptions. So far, nearly 6,000 survivors have registered to do just that. And
people are asking the question, what exactly are they supposed to do with that amount of money, right? Knowing how much these houses cost, we're talking about $3 million and above. That sounds very disturbing. Some call this move very disgusting. And they think it's also political, because one of the reasons for it is just not too long ago, there was about $70-something million dedicated to homelessness in California. There was another $50 million given for political reasons in California. And recently, Biden made the announcement for 400 and something million dollars to go to Ukraine. So people are looking at that and saying, if Americans only deserve $750, $770, what does this say about the intent behind? So
As investigators.
one of the person I wanted to get a perspective of about this is it's Mel Gibson. But before we get into that, what are your thoughts on this, and what are some things that you guys are hearing about this fire, and how do you feel about what the news is telling us?
So as I see things, and I've noticed and spoken to my congregants about it, there is an overwhelming desire to know what is the prophetic significance of all of this. They're all like, well, where's prophecy fit in all this? What does this have to do with the mark of the beast and things like that? And I think that, the natural implication, as you'd mentioned, is that, there's the narrative which is saying it's natural disaster, which the Bible says is the case to an extent. The earth is groaning under sin. That's Romans 8:22. So, the world is, coming apart at the seams, and natural disasters are the consequence of that. There's also judgment and mercy involved, right? We know that there's some people, we were hearing discussions and talks about how some houses were preserved and others were not. Why? Right? Was it because they were extra wealthy and they could put out the fires with extra water? Or was it, God's providential hand that sort of kept some homes safe and some not? So there's all this debates and all this really questioning going on around, and people are applying to themselves saying, what if this happened to me? So it does have a lot of bearing on today. So there's judgment and mercy involved. There's a warning and wake-up call also. I don't know if you guys have heard about that before, that it's a judgment from God, and people are being punished for their sin and they need to repent. There's that aspect too, which is being talked about. And so when you go to the spirit of prophecy on these things, you find that I think it's Testimonies to the Church, Volume 6. Ellen White, she writes about how the restraining spirit of God is even now being withdrawn from the world. And as the spirit is being withdrawn, there's these hurricanes, storms, and tempests, and floods, and disasters. And so we see that as the world is groaning under sin, there's also this withdrawing of the spirit, which is leading to calamity. So it's a multifaceted issue, for sure.
Wow, thank you for that. Elder Ben, do you have any remark on this?
No, I agree. It's multifaceted, like Pastor Ben said. There are bad actors at play. If you know anything about the Great Controversy, if my Bible study group, we recently studied Revelation chapter 12 and looking at the controversy between Christ and Satan. Satan works through people, just like God works through people. And so in response to the different causes, potential causes for this, all of that could be absolutely possible, because that's what the devil does. He inspires and leads people to do evil things, and so those things are not, for me, that's not a reach or stretch. I think ultimately, like Pastor Ben said, is like, okay, what's the spiritual aspect of this? Why is God allowing this to happen? I have a quote I'll share a little bit later, but I think, like Pastor Ben said, in this wicked world, the Spirit of God is withdrawing because people are rejecting Him, not because God wants to withdraw, but as people reject, the Spirit withdraws and respects that decision. And so, but like I said, I have a quote to share a little bit later on that point.
All right. Thank you so much for that. All right, let's listen to Mel Gibson. He had a few words to share about this, and I would like to also get your thought and perspective on what he said.
That's something they have to live with, and but that's something that community has to live with, and it's really sad. I mean, I have many friends that are, looking for a place to put a roof over their heads, and kids, and, they're traumatized. So, someone should answer for it, but we'll see. I think we know who the culprits are. In fact, my son he's a member of the volunteer fire brigade. He sort of interfaces between LA County Fire and people, and they assist them where they can before, and after the blaze. And apparently the residents in Corral Canyon caught an arsonist up there. And the guy was all tooled up with fire gear and equipment and stuff like that, ready to go. And he had been lighting fires, but they corralled the guy in Corral Canyon and gave him to the police. So
Yeah,
there are
apparently
people
that
actively going around looking for these conditions. Yeah.
Yeah, apparently, Mel, that individual was never charged. It's a very confusing set of facts because apparently he was reportedly trying to light things on fire, but it's not the fires, I guess, that they... I mean, it all seems very bizarre, but they have not ruled out that arson could have started the first fire. There's obviously still investigating this, and at the same time, Mel, there are numerous complaints, as you alluded to, that the fire hydrants did not have water or water pressure.
Yeah. So you heard that. What are your thoughts?
That's interesting. That I've seen that clip before. Huh. I don't know. It, like I said, there are bad actors. The devil works in the details. He's always using individuals to start some type of chaos, some type of destruction. And so, like I said, I mean, I don't know, but I'm not one to ignore the reality that there are some bad people in this world who have bad intentions, bad agendas, and they're used by the devil. And so, I'm not one to necessarily deny that reality and the possibility of that. But that's interesting for sure.
Wow. I've heard a crazy narrative, and I'm still wrestling with this. The narrative is I would say the alternative narrative. The alternative narrative is where there's natural disasters similar to what happened in Cali, even when it's about war and anything like that. This is the largest transference of wealth and land grabbing method that is always works. For example, if rich people with a lot of money don't know what to do with their money, so they need to find ways to put that money to use. So something like this is an opportunity to grab their lands for the cheapest price. For example, $3 million homes are now, some rich guy come down the block and say, I'll give you $5,000 for that little spot of land because there's no home left, right? So what are you going to do? Desperation has settled in. And you have bad memory, you're traumatized by what happened. You don't want to stay in that area ever again. And it's like, some people are saying this fits perfectly with the original plan, because it's like the plan was about getting rid of the people, grab the land, and rebuild the city. So that's what some people are saying. And again, I'm still wrestling with it. I'm simply saying it's out there. So we can only tell over time how is this going to be confirmed, or it is to be true. But somebody sent me this video, and again, it's a lot of things in there. I'm not sure how much of it is true, but it wasn't an interesting one. Somebody just sent this to me. Was it this morning? Yeah, there we go. Yeah. You have an idea. Let me see. Is my screen sharing on? No. Let me see. Let me turn that on. There we go.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
All right. There it is. Yeah, that is something.
Yeah. Well, when you look at that and you look at that video, and it's like, those are the populated sections where people would live. So I mean, yeah, I mean there could be something behind that, but I believe always going back to the Bible personally,
Correct.
looking through a biblical lens. And when I look at Revelation 18, it's clear to me what goes on in the last days.
Correct.
Revelation 18, you have the picture of, Babylon has fallen, and you see all the people, the merchant men, the big people, the big wigs of the earth.
Correct.
They mourn and weep over with the loss. And they've got everything. They've got silk, scarlet, vessels of most precious wood, brass, iron, and so on. And so you have all this list of goods, and at the very end, it becomes very sickly. You see chariots and slaves and souls of men.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Right? So they got everything on lock. And you see, it even goes even deeper. Let's go even deeper, shall we? Slaves. In Greek is the word soma. So it's where you get the word like somatic cells, body cells. Okay. And you go deeper, the next word, souls of men. Souls is the word psyche, like where you get psychiatric, psychology from, right? The mind, the inner life. So right down
I'm sorry.
to the
Were you quoting?
bodies
Were
and
you
minds.
quoting from again? Revelation 18. I want to put that on the screen as you speak. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Revelation chapter 18, verse 13.
Got it. Okay, continue. Go ahead.
It said the souls and slaves. So the psyche, the minds, the inner life, and the soma, the bodies of men. So when you look at this whole situation, could this fit into the prophetic narrative? It could, because people, as you said, out of desperation, will sell at a low price their homes and stuff, and their land that they've lost, right? And they will become a slave to the debtor because they'll have to refinance and get a home somewhere else,
Wow.
right? Right. It's very interesting, and this has been damaging to people's minds. Trauma, right? The psyche has been traumatized, right?
Yeah.
It's very deep. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you, Pastor Ben. That was a dagger indeed. Here is an addition to that, and I think this is gonna spell out the very thing you just read, right? So the governor, Gavin Newsom, while the fire is burning, people are criticizing this, and I think it's a fair criticism. Is already making plan for rebuilding it, and you're speaking about LA 2.0, and it's almost there's a glee and a joy that as you watch the video, and I don't like to get caught up in those little things, but sometimes you can tell a lot if you study body language. You're like, Anyway, watch this.
Over the course of the next several years, Los Angeles will be host to the World Cup, and then the Super Bowl, and then the Olympics. With this rebuilding effort needing to take place, is LA going to be ready for all of those global events?
My humble position, and it's not just being naively optimistic, that only reinforces the imperative moving quickly, doing it in the spirit of collaboration and cooperation. President of the United States, Donald Trump, to his credit, was helpful in getting the Olympics to the United States of America, to get it down here in LA. We thank him for that. This is an opportunity for him to shine, for this country to shine, for California and this community to shine. The opportunity with all of that and all that opportunity and that pride and spirit that comes from not just hosting those three iconic games and venues, but also the opportunity, I think, to rebuild at the same time. And that's why we're already organizing a Marshall Plan. We already have a team of looking and reimagining LA 2.0, and we're making sure everyone's included, not just folks on the coast, people here that were ravaged by this disaster.
You just said you're organizing a Marshall Plan for the rebuilding of California. What is that Marshall Plan?
For
Tell
this
us about
region,
this Marshall
we're just
Plan.
starting to lay out. I mean, we're still fighting these fires. So we're already talking to city leaders. We're already talking to civic leaders. We're already talking to business leaders and nonprofits. We're talking to labor leaders. We're starting to organize how we can put together a collection of individuals on philanthropy for recovery, how we can organize the region, how we can make sure that we are seeking federal assistance for the Olympics more broadly, but also federal assistance for the recovery efforts, and how we can galvanize the community with folks that love this community to really develop a mindset so that at scale we're dealing with the scope of this tragedy and responding to it at scale with efficiency, like the executive order I talked about, time value of delivering projects, addressing building codes, addressing permitting issues, and moving forward to rebuilding and being more resilient.
Wow. I have nothing to say about that one. My thought is I just can't I don't think this is the time for this discussion. That's all I'm simply saying, you know?
Right. No, that's interesting. I just and again, only time will tell. But I think it's fair to say history has shown us that those in power, those who have massive, we're not just talking about just kind of the run of the mill millionaire. We're talking about people who have massive, massive wealth, people who you don't even know of. History has shown us that there has always been the oppression of the poor, the oppression of the middle class. The Bible talks about that. I know both of you are familiar with James chapter 5, verses 1-6. Which it says here, go to now, ye rich men, weep and howl for your miseries that shall come upon you. Your riches are corrupted, your garments are moth-eaten, your gold and silver is cankered, and the rust of them shall be a witness against you, and you shall eat your flesh as it were fire. Ye have heaped treasure together for the last days. Behold the hire of the laborers, who have reaped down your fields, which is of you kept back by fraud, crieth, and the cries of them which have reaped are entered into the ears of the Lord of Sabbath. Ye have lived in pleasure on the earth and have wanton. Ye have nourished your hearts as in a day of slaughter. Ye have condemned and killed the just, and he doeth not resist you.
Wow.
So the Bible is very, very, very plain.
Absolutely clear.
On this. This is a real issue. Again, we can't necessarily point and say it's this person without actual, evidence to back that up. But this is a real thing, and God is watching. He's aware of that. I won't read this quote, but even Ellen White quotes, where as a result of this, it will result in a civil war between the lower classes and the upper classes, because of that oppression. And so we'll see where this plays out with California after the aftermath of these fires. But I have no doubt. I mean, nothing's new under the sun. There is some type of oppression, some type of fraud taking place. You can't leave a good crisis to go to waste. So.
Mercy. I think you were referring to education. That's speaking about the French Revolution, the centralization of wealth and everything.
Yes. Yeah. That's another one. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Good point. Go ahead, Pastor Ben.
You notice, we couldn't miss Mel Gibson's words where he says, someone's got to pay, right? You see, that's the spirit of revenge there, right? The spirit of, there's got to be some retribution and restitution here, either by, proper channels or by force. It's the message of a hurt heart and injustice being served upon someone else. So when you look at that and you say, okay, look at biblical eschatology for a moment. Natural calamities and stuff will intensify in the last days.
Okay.
And there's going to be a group of people who are going to be blamed for it. And they got to pay. Right? So you just play with that for a little while, right?
I see what you just did. Isn't that something?
No, that's good.
Yeah.
That's a good point, because with all this, even with what we just talked about. Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, you always need a scapegoat. I remember what did that governor? I mean, going back into the Christian history here, Governor Nero. Many historians believe the fire that was set in Rome, that was his doing. So he intentionally set that fire in Rome for political expediencies. Now he had a reason to fight against it. Now he was to be looked upon as a hero, for supposedly saving the world from a disaster. But nevertheless, he blamed the Christians for this during the time of the Roman Empire. And the Christian took the blame for the disaster that happened in Rome. And now they had another reason to galvanize against the Christian faith and throw them into the Colosseums and for wild beasts to devour them. And I think history, one thing we learn from history is that we never learn from history.
Mercy.
It's like a parallel. But as you were speaking, Justin, one thing that came to my mind was 1 Timothy 6 verse 10. You guys familiar with that? For the love of money is the root of all evil. Yes. Which while some coveted after, and they've erred from the faith, pierced themselves through with many sorrows. So if you follow the money, you can almost figure out the motive. So we're not saying cannot be natural. It cannot. It can be. In some cases, things are artificial. Sometimes it is man-made. But whether it is natural or not, lovers of money will always use a good crisis for the purpose to push forward whatever agenda, sinful and wicked, diabolical agenda that is in their hearts, rather than to minister to the needs of those who are looking for love and attention and comfort. Rather than to do that, they will use this for their own demonic purposes. That's a fact, and that's always been the way it is. And this is why the Christians, we have such a responsibility to behave unlike the way the world is addressing the matter. I think this is an opportunity for us to be Christians, to show that we do love, we do care, we understand, we can sympathize, and we can also minister to the needs of those. And in the process, we are told we can bait people to follow. So this is an opportunity for us at the same time. And I think we should take advantage of that.
Amen.